James is based in the States, over in New Hampshire. So what we've decided to go with in the end is he's going to give his lightning talk. It's pre-recorded, and then with a bit of luck, we're going to have him on a Google Hangout for a couple of questions afterwards, luckily, because we're doing quite well for time. So we've tested this out, so with a bit of luck, we should hear James coming in.
Hello, thank you for that nice introduction. So yes, my name's James, I'm a UX designer, and I am 3,000 miles away. Sorry I'm not there in person, I'd love to have been, but a flight would have added 2.5 tons to my carbon footprint for the year, which would be defeating the point. So instead I'm here by Google Hangout, which is a lot better. An hour on a Google Hangout's worth about 4 kilos of CO2. So yes, I'm a little bit obsessed with counting and cutting carbon, and I work on the internet, so naturally I started researching the carbon footprint of the internet, because I'd heard it was big. Especially since the internet is basically coal-powered. So sure enough, all the infrastructure that carries the internet is pretty power-intensive stuff, especially the mobile components. So it shouldn't really be a surprise to find out that the internet's footprint is on the order of 830 million tonnes a year, which is about the same as Poland's annual carbon footprint, or that of the entire aviation industry. So that's definitely something worth tackling. So as a former web designer, I naturally wondered, can the web be greener? Can we save some CO2 with good design? So I researched this a bit further last year and wrote an article, which was split between research and design solutions. I'm going to sum it up really quickly so we can get to the good bits. Basically, the upshot is it takes a lot of power to shove data around the network, especially the mobile network. All that electricity means CO2. More or less CO2 depending on what country you live in. The more data you're sending down the pipes, the greater the carbon footprint. Small sites might only have a footprint of say 8 tons or so, but if you're something the size of Tumblr, you're in the thousands of tons, or even the millions of tons. So, if you want to start saving some data on the internet, here's how to think about it. Think about the amount of data per user, the number of users, and how filthy your electricity is. And that's going to give you a rough idea of your site's carbon footprint. Really, the only bit we can tackle is the data per user. That's the bit that's under our control. Generally we want more users rather than fewer. So let's attack the data problem. So web designer, I'm not quite so old school as to go back to 91, but yeah, when I was starting out, sites were a lot smaller than they are today. Now, the average web page size today wouldn't fit on an old floppy disk. It's 1.7 megabytes. It's huge. What happened was pages have been growing by about 25% a year for 23 years. We ditched our 56K modems, we got bigger monitors and ubiquitous broadband. And technology progressed. So this is how you end up with this 1.7 megabyte page size. But I'd argue an awful lot of that is bloat, poor optimization, fashion, or sheer bloody laziness. So not necessarily a better user experience at all. Enough blather. Let's see if we can't claw some of that back and as a result save some carbon. Now here are just 9 quick tips to get us started. Tip number 1, run your site through Google PageSpeed. It's going to give you 20 odd suggestions for things to speed up your site and trim page weight. 2, optimize your images, super important, especially for mobile. 3, image carousels can go die. You don't need them, users don't click on them very often. Use your site analytics to check. 4, why not try adopting a more modern European look, go mono. That's going to save a few bytes on these images. 5, newfangled techniques like vector art, SVG, is going to give you a much smaller file size. Similarly, icon fonts and other modern web design techniques also save a bundle as well, so bring your site up to date. 7, share buttons are a rash on the internet. Most of them are just terrible and they're often underused. So again, use your site analytics, find out if they're being underused or not used. Maybe you can get rid of them, that'd be nice. Number 8, host your website in Iceland. They've got lots of clean geothermal power there to power your servers, so that's nice. 9, go back to the beginning. Plan your site properly. Plan it on having a smaller page size, which is going to give you a much smaller footprint and make it blazingly fast to boot, which means happier users. So there's plenty of inspirationally thin websites out there for you to check out. Here are a couple of my favourites. They're both responsive and modern and far, far smaller than the average. I'll tweet links out to them later. So if we went out and applied these savings to our average sites, what would we get? In the case of that smaller site from earlier, well, it can really dramatically save a lot of carbon there, enough to fly you halfway around the world. In the case of a Acme made-up company, you could save, some real carbon, hundreds of thousands of tons. So here's my takeaway. I take Cleanweb really literally. I don't want to build the next generation of industries on a foundation of poorly optimized and polluting code. Thank you very much.